What if a single drop of blood could tell you almost everything about your health? Sounds like the plot for a sci-fi movie, right? But at one time, that's exactly what a company called Theranos promised, and people were all in. Imagine, no more big needles, no more waiting, just a finger prick, and you'd have all the information you'd ever need about your health. The person behind this vision was Elizabeth Holmes. She was a college dropout, barely 19 when she came up with the idea. And in just a few years, she was on the cover of magazines known as the youngest self-made billionaire and compared to Steve Jobs. She seemed unstoppable, like a visionary who changed healthcare forever. What absolutely nobody expected was that she would go down as one of the biggest frauds in history. What happened to Theranos, and how did it go from a $9 billion empire to a scandal that landed its founder in court? That's what we're diving into in this video, and trust me, this story has it all. So let's start with Elizabeth Holmes herself. Holmes wasn't your average college dropout. She was smart, driven, and seemed absolutely fearless. Growing up, she was known for being ambitious. Her father worked at Enron, and her mother was a Capitol Hill staffer, so she was no stranger to high-stakes careers. From a young age, Elizabeth set her sights on big things. At Stanford, she studied chemical engineering and showed a knack for both science and business. She was inspired by her hero, Thomas Edison, and wanted to make a difference. But she wasn't about to wait to finish school. Holmes dropped out at 19 with a vision that felt almost like a fantasy, a device that could run hundreds of tests with just a few drops of blood. No syringes, no long lab visits, just quick results and all the information a person could need about their health. She named her company Theranos, a blend of therapy and diagnosis. And the mission sounded amazing. Make healthcare cheaper, faster, and accessible to everyone. People loved it. Her story was magnetic, her vision captivating. She wore black turtlenecks like Steve Jobs and had a deep, steady voice that commanded attention. And she was young and confident. So confident that, as it turns out, she didn't leave much room for questions or doubt. Holmes didn't just build a company, she built an image of herself as a revolutionary in healthcare. Big names like Henry Kissinger and former Secretary of Defense James Mattis joined her board, and she raised millions in funding from investors who wanted in on the next big thing. By 2014, Theranos was valued at a staggering $9 billion. Elizabeth herself was worth nearly $5 billion on paper. Walgreens started setting up Theranos wellness centers where people could walk in, get a finger prick, and walk out with their results soon after. It seemed like Elizabeth's dream was becoming a reality. But behind the scenes, things were not as they seemed. Here's where the story takes a turn. Despite all the hype, the technology wasn't working. Engineers at Theranos struggled to get the machines, called Edisons, to deliver reliable results. They'd get one set of numbers, then run the same sample, and get a completely different set. The results were inconsistent and, in some cases, dangerously wrong. Yet, Holmes didn't slow down. In fact, she kept pushing harder. Theranos became a very secretive place. Elizabeth Holmes was obsessed with protecting the company's image. She told employees to stay quiet about what they were working on, and if anyone questioned her decisions or raised concerns, they'd often be forced out. People felt scared to speak up, and as a result, the problems just kept building. At this point, you might be wondering, why didn't someone do something? Why didn't investors or even the big names on her board demand more answers? Here's an important lesson. Just because someone looks confident and has a compelling story doesn't mean everything is as it seems. Holmes was an incredible storyteller, and she used that to keep people focused on her vision, not on the details. And with her board stacked with people who weren't medical experts, very few had the background to ask the tough questions. In business, if you surround yourself with people who only tell you what you want to hear, you're setting yourself up for failure. Meanwhile, employees were growing increasingly nervous. Some had even tried to blow the whistle, but because of the strict culture and fear of getting fired, most stayed quiet. All of this continued until one brave employee decided to reach out to a journalist at the Wall Street Journal named John Carreyrou. Carreyrou had heard rumors and decided to investigate, and what he uncovered was shocking. In 2015, he published a story exposing that Theranos wasn't using their Edison machines for many of their tests. Instead, they were secretly using traditional machines from other companies while still claiming that the Edison devices worked. Once this news hit, things spiraled out of control. Walgreens, which had invested heavily in Theranos, began asking questions. The FDA and other regulators stepped in, and the lab was found to have major safety issues. Not only was Theranos unable to perform tests accurately, but the lab itself was so poorly run that it posed a risk to patients' health. After the story broke, Elizabeth didn't back down, at least not immediately. She went on TV, confidently denying the allegations, but soon more evidence came out and it became impossible to ignore. By 2016, Theranos was under investigation by the government, and in 2018, Holmes and her business partner, Sunny Balwani, were charged with fraud. Prosecutors argued that they'd lied to investors, doctors, and patients about what Theranos' technology could do. The fallout was huge. The once celebrated CEO, who was praised as a genius, became a symbol of Silicon Valley's obsession with fake it till you make it. The company dissolved, Holmes' net worth plummeted to zero, and her reputation was shattered. In 2022, she was convicted of fraud and sentenced to over 11 years in prison. So, what can we learn from the fall of Theranos? First, ambition is powerful, but it can be dangerous if it blinds you to the truth. Holmes had a big dream, but rather than slowing down to make sure the technology was sound, she kept pushing forward, even when the evidence was piling up that it wasn't working. She ignored the truth because she was so focused on her vision of success. In business, it's key to step back, face the reality of where you are, and make sure you're on the right track before you move forward. Second, you have to be transparent. Holmes didn't just hide the truth from the public, she hid it from her own employees and partners. She created a culture where people were afraid to speak up. In any company, communication and honesty are key. If you're running a business, you want to encourage people to question, to bring up problems, and to help find solutions. Holmes' refusal to be transparent led to her downfall. And finally, we learned the importance of accountability. Holmes had advisors and investors, but few of them were experts in healthcare. They were impressed by her confidence and believed in her story without digging deeper. In business, you need people around you who will hold you accountable and help you keep your feet on the ground. If you surround yourself with people who only see what you want them to see, it's easy to end up in a bubble, and that bubble can burst. Today, Theranos is gone, and Holmes is paying a heavy price for her actions. The story of Theranos is a powerful reminder that even the most exciting, world-changing ideas have to be backed by real, solid results. Fake it till you make it might work in some areas, but not when people's health and lives are on the line. So, what do you think? Was this story just a case of ambition gone wrong, or did Elizabeth Holmes deserve what she got in the end? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more business videos like this.